5:49. We'll call the meeting to order. I had emailed out everybody a copy of the minutes from the last meeting, which was on February 12th. Did everybody get a chance to review those? Everything look good to everyone? Any changes or corrections to the minutes from February 12th?
Nope.
If not, I will, Steve makes a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. So the only thing that we have going on tonight, as you know, is we have 4 different boards coming in to meet with us tonight. Liz is going to come in at some point. She was going to try and come in to join the full meeting, but she's busy with the selectmen, so she'll make it in here at some point. She will be coming in at least by 7 o'clock to present the Board of Selectmen's budget to us, but we also have the 2 schools, which tend to be pretty confusing, so we have a busy night ahead of us. This is the latest version of the budget, updated numbers. We have pretty much numbers from every committee here. The only ones that you see in red are the ones that are still outstanding. Some of those we don't ever get. Agriculture, for example, I don't think ever changes, so we'll probably just automatically put them in for $500 like it has been done in the past. Open space, same deal. Council on Aging, we got a capital request from, but we did not get a regular budget request, so that will be coming through. Everything else is pretty much done. The only 2 items that are still open are the highway surveyor. His salary is under negotiation, so the other expenses for the department were submitted, but his personal stuff is not. So there's 3 because he's got a supervisor role, burial agent, and highway DPW superintendent kind of role. So bottom line for us is we are.
Is that 2 separate salaries?
It's broken down into a couple of different lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's more of a stipend, like for the burial agent, and then. So bottom line, we were just under $11 million total. Of course, that's exclusive of any sort of warrant articles that might come through just for spending. But that's where we stand. And if you remember last time, Lisa had asked Barbara what the revenue figure that we have here, 12.3, is our maximum levy. So Lisa had asked Barbara what it would be if we took our last year's actual and just added 2.5% to get a kind of a more true figure for us to work with, and that's what that 11.8 number is. So that's really what our target should be there. So you can see we're down to about $800,000 of
Wiggle room.
yeah, exactly, yeah, which always gets blown from for various things. Again, there's always a warrant article for. I talked to the fire chief today. He's coming in today, and he's got some, a few here and there. 5,000 here, 5,000 there. It obviously it all adds up. So that's kind of where we are. It's where we've been similarly in the past, I think, but that's kind of where we stand. So just wanted to give you guys the latest update as far as that goes.
Is there any forward progress on this police station?
I haven't heard. They were supposed to have, the bids were due at the end of January, maybe, or sometime in February.
Okay, so that, yeah.
So they're in the process. I don't know if they've that may be what part of what they're talking about today at the selectmen meeting. I don't know if they've actually chosen a contractor yet. I don't even know how many bids were received.
Understood.
So.
Usually better that way.
Yes.
So this is our Janet. And then they break it down for us. a lot of it is obviously is teacher salary, which is, you know, contracted. There's nothing we can do about that. So that's the majority of it. So we can go see if they're ready to come in and talk to us, I guess.
So how many you milking?
No milking,
Ain't milking?
no cows.
Okay. I haven't been down under a cow in years. Still do it. Probably need to now, weaken the wrist. Across the street, neighbors were over there. School.
They actually have some kind of a public meeting going on in the other room. So. The school,
Gathered
the
that
school
one
committee, I
back.
mean, yeah.
Had to back into a parking
I know.
space.
I know. Of course, everybody drives a pickup truck too, so you back in and you've got no place to go.
Not after May.
Yes, I know. I know.
I'll get my heated steering wheel just in time for summer.
You're supposed to buy a convertible in summertime.
I was looking at a sporty little in the showroom.
Yeah.
Jaguar, that got two-seater, you know. They put an automatic in it.
It's awful.
That's awful.
That's just wrong.
Horrible.
It's just wrong.
People these days.
I have no idea how to drive.
They're gonna drum me out of the
stick shift.
BMW club if we're not having a manual transmission.
I think the X, whatever the X number is now, has still got a stick in it.
Some of them do.
Some of them do. Yeah.
Some of them do.
6-speed stick.
Janet had her Mazda was a manual a couple cars ago. I liked it. It was fun to drive.
I've only ever driven a stick shift.
Only?
Only.
Even
I mean,
now?
I have driven automatics, but I've never owned one myself.
Good for you.
My pickup.
What do you drive now?
Mini Cooper.
Nice.
My pickup truck out there has got a 6-speed stick in it.
Nice.
I think that one of the big reasons I'm moving on is I want diesel. No more gasoline. That
Your
truck-
VW's
that-
a diesel, right?
Yeah, it's the TDI, yeah. That truck went from 22 to the gallon, it's got a 4.7 V8 in it, down to 15 when they put alcohol in the gasoline.
I learned to drive with the shift on the column, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's old school.
In Germany, I had a Mercedes. Me and another guy had a Mercedes. 4-speed on the column.
Yeah, this is I don't know if it was a 4-speed or a 3, might have been a 3-speed.
3-speed. 3-speeds in this
F100.
country.
They didn't even have the F-150s yet. It was an F-100. My dad's F-100. me and my mom went on vacation. I needed to get somewhere. That's the way it worked. I only stalled twice.
Hey, you learn fast when you have to go somewhere.
When there's somebody behind you, you know, laying on the horn.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I taught my youngest daughter to drive standard. And at that time, 44 was just being put in. So went over to what's now Cisco, but
Yeah.
it wasn't then. And
Right.
okay, we go through here.
Right.
And then we go up the ramp and up onto the new 44. And she's going through the gears. And I said, drop me off, drive.
Yep.
Yeah, Mini Coopers are fun to drive.
Are they exporting diesels? To the state? I know Volkswagen doesn't do it anymore. So you can't get a Porsche.
Wow, whose fault was that?
Usually lying about everything.
I mean, you know.
It was only a little bit. Mine got fixed. It's back in
And you wonder why your mileage dropped.
or it didn't drop in the TDI.
Have you seen the videos of the Volkswagen graveyard that's in Weymouth?
No.
You know the Air Force Base?
Yeah.
Basically, like all the recalled V-dubs from New England are parked there.
Oh, no kidding.
And when you fly in, like if you're gonna land in Logan,
Right.
and they fly over it, you can see it. It's like thousands of cars.
No kidding.
It's insane.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. This is fascinating Finance Committee talk brought to you by Volkswagen. Farvig Nugan, y'all.
Actually, Nate, it's Volkswagen.
Yeah, whatever.
And that was a Navy base. NCW, Navy Weymouth. I was based there in the blizzard, semi-based there in the blizzard of 78. We're based out of Otis. But we were doing operations out of there instead of flying all the way back to the Cape. You should probably be running back
No. I missed the Blizzard of 78. A couple of years.
there. My daughter, who's turning 40 this year, she just made it. No, she didn't. She was still inside. She hadn't come out.
Okay. They're going to come in. I don't know how many of them, but they're all coming.
Maybe I should have gone over this with us against them.
Or maybe we should come over there.
That's probably easier, because
Yeah.
that way they could just come in.
That makes sense.
I really didn't propose that.
No,
Great idea.
that does make sense.
Well, the people watching tonight are like, what's going on?
I know, yeah. All four of them that watch regularly
Yeah.
set their DVRs for the Finance Committee meeting.
What channel is that on?
I have no idea.
I know it's not an HD channel, but I'm not even gonna worry about
I
it.
actually watched one of them once because I had to confirm something last year. Forget how I found it though. I think it was on YouTube. Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, they put it on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna
Sorry, no room
put
for
an
bags.
antenna up on my roof.
No, I mean, it's just,
They buy by cable.
There you go.
This is a $25 fee for luggage.
I just don't know what to bring.
And my internet
Is that how we're?
files.
That's how we're offsetting any budgetary shortfalls this year.
Street they
We
wired,
just charge you for bags.
and then ran off.
Oh, Lisa's here.
I mean, she can take the
Then they
notes.
ran off to Duxbury.
I started for you.
You let-
Okay, well, if I
So far
can't
it's been
sit,
a-
you'll have to keep
It's
going.
been a fascinating meeting so far.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey guys.
How are you?
Do not
Good.
lean in.
Are
That
we
bar
doing
is
selectmen at
dangerous.
6?
We're doing schools first because we had arranged their schedule, and then by the time you got back to me, we had already made changes for them. So
Okay, I wasn't aware
I
of that.
kept
Okay.
it. Sorry about that.
All right, what time should I come back?
Whenever you want.
Okay.
7. No later than 7.
No later than 7.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that should work then.
Okay.
All
Sorry
right.
about that.
That's okay.
See this little stool right there?
Man,
You want this?
Hi.
How are you? Sit right
I'm
there in the
well.
corner. Good. Yeah, I'm just.
How many people we got?
Still writing?
No.
Okay, thank you. I was just gonna say that. Do you want me to take this stool, Lisa? Nope, this is perfect. I'm gonna look over Max. I mean, Nate.
Going through that.
You can call me Nat. That's fine.
Max, like flashbacks.
Could be
Careful
worse.
sitting on that. Oh, I was thinking of the thing behind you, that's the
All right.
the
one
square
I
paper
brought.
cover? Yeah.
Sorry. We should have stayed in your big room.
Oh, looks like we lost that room anyways, because planning board's in there.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's not much, but it's ours.
Hey, you gotta hold on to it dearly.
Uh-oh. They're coming in and out of the woodwork. Jeez. Sneaking in the back door.
We're doing
Oh, be
Denver.
careful.
Dennett was supposed to come first, yeah. Dennett was at 6, and then Silver Lake at 6:30.
Cardez.
Kind of all runs together.
Good news first.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a chop saw.
You guys,
Oh, that's a little better.
you guys come on in.
Coming in.
Sliding compound miter
Come
saw.
on in.
My son-in-law wants to borrow. You know, do all this trim. Well, you ready to take
I'll
the machine gun?
this back there if you want to look along while there. One of us should pretend to know what's going on.
Tell people you're protecting.
Did I say that into the
I
microphone?
looked over and saw that.
We're very efficient.
We're just trying to reassure the townspeople. We've already covered, diesel TDI versus, the benefits of driving a stick shift versus an automatic. You would have been
You
great.
must have
in that
been great
discussion.
car talk
Yeah,
before we started.
absolutely. That would be fantastic.
See what happens when we wait for you guys? We get all sort of off schedule.
Better than sitting here looking at it.
Is this everybody? I mean, okay.
Probably enough.
No, you did well. You did well. I think we can field a softball team. We're good.
Okay, there we go, there we go.
So, thank you all for coming in tonight to meet with us. I don't know if you know all of us on this side of the table. I know probably some of us don't know all of you. So why don't we take a quick second to just kind of go around the room, introduce ourselves. I'm Nate Sides. I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee.
Catherine Shepard.
Eric Hart.
Stephen Lewis.
And Lisa Hart.
I'm John Wilhamson, chair of the Plympton School Committee.
Jill Prue, Assistant Superintendent.
Joy Blackwood, Superintendent.
Christine Haley, Business Manager.
I'm Jason Frazier.
Mike Anthony.
Peter Venito, Building Principal.
She snuck in at the end.
Gonna wait till the next round.
Okay, all right.
You
can still
treat us.
You can still introduce yourself. All right, great. So up first is the Dennett budget request, which I believe we have somewhere.
So, I think we have a couple things to go through.
Okay.
One is the budget, but perhaps before we get to the budget, we should talk about some of the fun we've had this year,
Sure.
because that definitely has some impact on numbers as well. First, as most of you or all of you perhaps know, at this point we had some generator issues, namely the generator that we had at the school, which currently supplies the pumps for the sprinkler system as well as the well pump. I decided to basically blow apart in a test run before that big storm we had the storm, and then for some reason it was not warm anymore. It was down at 0 and less. So that blew out during that testing, and long story short, we've been working with the selectmen, and Nate, I'll just let you know as well. We ended up moving ahead with getting a new generator for the school. The old one was not recommended to be repaired, and it would not be cheap to repair it. And we got a bigger generator, which our plan is to be able to provide not just power for the pumps, but also to provide some limited heating and lighting, so that the school can actually be used as an emergency shelter, which it can't currently because the generator only powers the basic.
Which I believe
fire
originally the
suppression.
building committee wanted it to be
Yes.
used that way.
I was
Yeah,
told
the
that.
generator,
Yep.
and was actually told, I believe, that the generator would be able to do that, but I know that it wasn't.
Yeah, apparently wasn't able to do very much, but so that we moved ahead with. And in the meantime, we had the wonderful benefit of getting to rent a generator so that we could have school open, because without the generator, school can't be open, building can't be occupied. So everything told, the generators was about $58,000. With that, we get a temporary generator, which is hooked up to the school right now. They are not charging us extra for that because there's a lead time to getting a new generator built and delivered. That with the generator rental and some additional electrical work that needed to be done, we're at about 69 and change, about
Just under
70,000.
70, yeah.
So that's bad news. I'm going to give you some additional bad news, and I'll tell you some good news. Get it out of the way. We also went out to bid this past fall for the water treatment system. The water treatment system we've been dealing with since I got on school committee, and then some.
I feel your pain.
Yeah, and we went out to bid for that, and despite all the great estimates, the bids came in way over where we need. They came in way over and then way over again. We did try and work with the low bidder to get those prices down. That was not very successful. So we've gone out for that. And so we end up with, we had hoped to be about 170, 165, 170 all in of additional funds, and we're going to be about 210. But that project is moving on.
What was the number we budgeted last? Was it 135?
We added another 130.
130?
At town meeting, and that was based on different estimates and
Right.
everything, but even based on those estimates and even putting a big buffer on that, the actual bids came in 210 and the other one was 255 or so. So not even close. And in talking with a number of folks that are involved in all, this is what's happening in a lot of things. So it's a small project and yet a bigger project, and yet it's a small project, and so it sits in not a very good place. We only had 2 bids come in for the whole thing. So that's also moving along, and we expect that to be done by the summer. So we will have solved the water issue, we will have solved the generator issue we didn't know we had until 6 weeks ago. Bad news. The good news on that is that we are expecting a $105,000 surplus in the vote line.
Yes.
And that's solid, given how people can move in and out of VOC, can't move in the middle of the year. So that number is solid. One of the discussions we had with frequent discussions we had with the selectmen was looking to move money from that VOC line to pay for the generator issue. We would do that at the special town meeting, because that way we're not looking to come up with additional funds there. We also have a current surplus in the special education line, again,
In tuition, $100,000.
about 100,000. That is a little more squishy in that things can happen between now and the end of the fiscal year. But currently that's where that is.
Did somebody leave the district, or how did?
We've had some changes, some placements, some movements.
And I think we're also seeing a little bit in our special ed is some of the benefits of having Marie
Yes,
here and
absolutely.
trying to really focus on how we're doing this, delivering what we need for the students, but doing it in the most cost-effective way, with some in-house programs and things like that. So that's sort of some of the stuff that's been going on this year, and now probably it makes sense to sort of talk to the budget, and we can go
Do you
into
have
more
specific
detail.
questions, or how would you like to proceed?
I personally do not have any specific questions. So
Okay.
if you want to just kind of give us an outline of the documents that you've sent in to us for consideration, I can scroll through them here. I mean, most of them we were chatting a little bit before you came.
Okay.
We recognize that most of this is state mandated or contract mandated, so there's not a ton of wiggle room
Exactly.
anyway.
Right.
So that's sort of where we're coming from.
Great. So I can do a snapshot, and my friend Christine can fill in any gaps I missed.
Sure.
So one of the things with the Dennett School is, as you know, it's a very teeny tiny school. So we've had some of our long-term wonderful veteran teachers resign over the last several years. Because of that, we've hired some new younger teachers, which have come in at a lower cost in terms of their salary, and that's why our increases in the regular day had been so low. So now we have those teachers and they are starting to need some professional development. Within the first 10 years, they have to get their master's degree if they don't have it. It's initially within 5 years, but they can get an extension of another 5 years. So what we're seeing is we're having a lot of our teachers taking graduate courses. So right now, our graduate line item for this budget year is 6,000 in the deficit, just under 6,000 in deficit. We'll be able to cover that from other areas, but we need to increase our professional development. So here, you'll notice we had an increase of $4,000 from 6,000 to 10,000 versus professional development. When we've looked at the current budget, we're recommending increasing that another 4,000 because we're already in deficit and we don't want to run into deficit again next year. So that's an area that I think we underestimated how much in deficit that number is going.
So this number here should really be 14?
Yes.
Is that what you, okay.
Yes, we would be much more comfortable with that recommendation.
Okay.
In terms of the other numbers, as you can see, it's really pretty level. There really aren't a lot of changes within our budget. This is bringing back the same staff we have. There's no additional staff. Utilities, Christine goes through and looks at, and the other bills, the transportation is just the bus contract. We have a contract there. So there aren't really a lot of changes within it. If you move to the next page of our budget, it goes into the special education line item. As you can see, the special ed has a very small increase, extremely small, especially relative to other districts. We're returning money because, again, we've had some movements of students, and it has been to the benefit of Plympton in terms of those changes. With vocational education, you'll notice that there's a decrease of 80,000 there. Again, we have allotted money for students who have the right to sign up for vocational programming until April 1. The programs have different costs. We have a vocational program at our high school. We have 6 different Chapter 74 programs at our high school, but these are the students that tend to go to the agricultural programs, animal science, animal husbandry, those types of programs, and they're pretty expensive programs. So that is why there is that decrease. I don't know if that covered some of the highlights, but.
And we have a large class moving out right now,
yes.
Which is part of, so we've allotted a certain number of new students to sign up. We would be right or wrong. We'll know April 1st.
Right.
But based on good judgment says this is the right number to go out, but we're having a lot of that decrease because we're losing a large bulge at the top end. So seniors graduating.
Right. And you do it on like a percentage basis? Is that the way you budget it, or?
We actually budget per student.
Yeah.
There are 2 returning students for next year. I have 1 student that's applied to go out of district, and there's still a space for 1 to 2 more students if they apply before April 1st. And if we end up not doing that, if we know that in advance of approving the budget, we can make that change.
The other thing that
But
happens
of course,
is
our
this.
timing doesn't really align because we
Right, of course.
the budget a week before we know.
Right.
So we take a best guess, and that's
Yeah, I guess
what
that's-
happened this time
Exactly.
is that we had allotted what we thought was reasonable. We saved a space, and
Yeah.
someone we thought was going, and they didn't go, and we didn't need the extra space, and then we end up with 112.
Sure.
What also happens is students sign up, they think it's a great idea until August comes, and then all their friends are going to the high school and they realize they have an hour-and-a-half bus ride, and suddenly it's just not as appealing. So often students sign up, say they're going, and then at the last minute change their mind. But we have to have the money available to pay their tuition if they do follow through.
With respect to the class sizes, and I know that enrollment for certain grade levels are higher than others. At what point does that get reflected in staffing?
That's a great question. Do you want me to take it?
I'll give a stab, and then you can correct me everywhere I get it
I mean,
wrong.
well, let me just.
Yeah.
There's one grade level, and I don't remember if it's the 3rd or the 4th grade, where there's half as many students as there are for the
Yeah,
other grade
I mean,
levels. So
it's,
is it safe to assume there's half as many teachers?
No, I mean-
Teachers for that
So
grade level?
Part of the problem we have at the Dennett is that we only have 2 teachers per grade level. And so to reduce that, you drop to the one teacher. And then you have that one teacher drop moving through as that grade moves through. And so that becomes very difficult from a programmatic perspective within the school. about having to move teachers from grade to grade as you move that through. So we have the one grade that has that low enrollment, apparently a demographic issue with the financial crisis, and people waited because the next year it jumps way up. Funny, our other schools in the district don't have that same issue, but Plympton is significantly dealt with in that. So, we have been trying to maintain the 2 teachers per grade in order to minimize that disruption. We've done it before at the Dennett, where we've dropped to 1 teacher, and it's been difficult to manage.
From what perspective?
From
The teachers are all certified to do any of
certainly,
those
but
grades.
they have lesson plans for the grade that they're doing. I mean, they spend a lot of time to do that. And again, Peter, you might be able to speak a little bit better to that. I only know enough to be dangerous.
Can I just, like, when you said that right away, I was like, there is no change, it's too small, it's for few teachers. But I didn't realize there were only 16 kids in
Yeah,
that class.
we're talking 8 kids per class.
We actually have school choice. One of the things that we dealt with is
21 in
we've
that
offered
class.
school choice to
I'm
the
just
public.
looking at this was
and
last
we
year,
have-
it says 16.
Right, but we have
Five.
Oh, and 5
school
school
choice.
choice.
So we have 21.
Well,
Right.
Still.
And so, and what we've been doing with the funds that come in from the school choice is we have been putting those aside to the benefit of the schools. So part of what we'll be talking about as we go through, we have some guidance that we're looking for from FinCom about how to make, we have the different monies that are sitting there at the end of this school year in special ed and in Vogue. We have a couple of other things that we're going to talk to as well. We're looking to be able to leverage those funds in order to deal with some other issues that we have upcoming, like the playground that we're going to need to deal with from an accessibility perspective. And we're trying to manage that budget in that way.
So just to give you a little information about school choice, so families have the right to apply to go to the Dennett School. We give them a certain number of seats available. We have opened up that grade for over the last several years, starting in kindergarten, because it was a small class, to sort of build up the capacity. The town receives 5,000-ish
Per student.
5,000 per student for school choice. The students have the right to stay with us K through 6. At the end of 6th grade, they would go back to the home district because Silver Lake is not a school choice district. Of the 3 towns, only Plympton is the only district that offers school choice. To John's point, and Peter can certainly speak to it, there are bubbles in different classes. We at one point in time had a grade that was very large. We had gone down a teacher. It is difficult for teachers to move grades. It is not impossible. To your point, they are licensed either 1 to 6 or N to 3, which is preschool to 3rd grade. You're absolutely correct. What John is more referring to is teachers become familiar with the curriculum, and to have to change the curriculum and what they're teaching each year is difficult. The other thing that happens is if students are with the same group of students 24/7 throughout their career, it becomes socially a somewhat limiting factor in terms of they never have any separation. So if you have some students who maybe aren't the best of friends, it can be very difficult. Thank you, Lisa, for shaking your head.
One of my
You've been
kids'
there.
classes was small, and I know that sometimes 2 classes are even hard
Must
to
be that other one.
separate.
Yeah.
It's
To
challenging
separate
at
the
the
children.
Dennett with 2.
I
It is
understand
difficult.
that.
But,
I mean,
but we can't have more than 2.
Right.
That's just
So
Right.
it's an intimacy that can become problematic, let's just say.
Completely
And
understand.
so I'm again, everything you have said is correct, but those are the reasons why we have really worked hard to
Financially,
try to
however, an
maintain-
extra teacher for 3 years, you're looking at $250,000 easily.
Okay.
So that's what we need to consider.
Yeah, no, as I said, I understand, our logic, again, is trying to provide the best education possible for the
Of
students.
course, and we
to
certainly
split
want
it
that
up.
as well. But there's got to be a middle
Absolutely.
ground.
Yeah, I understand that. Did I miss anything, Pete?
I think you both.
I just think I was very anti-school choice. I don't believe that we want to open the doors of our schools to people who don't live in town and pay taxes, because that eliminates one of the reasons why people move into this town, because of Dennett Elementary School. We all know that's why, one of the main reasons people come here for that experience. But when we were looking at how we could bring revenue into the situation and increase the class sizes, I voted to approve the school choice for that one particular reason. I worked in a K to 8, one classroom per grade level school. I was in Westmoreland, New Hampshire. And what Superintendent Blackwood said about kids getting stigmatized and put in those positions, if we went down to a single grade for this one blip on the radar, if it was multiple grades, I'd be more willing to talk about doing things like multi-age classrooms, and some of the other ways we could address this. We're gonna have a few more kids jump and go private or go to the charter schools that are available, and that's gonna end up taking even more money out of our budget.
Okay.
Westmoreland.
You know what?
I was a Littleton boy myself.
Okay. Always updates for me.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions on the budget?
Can I just ask about one line that just popped, custodial?
Yeah, that was a.
And there was like a drop last year, and then this year it's made a 10% increase. I'm just wondering if there's some reasoning behind all of that.
We had a custodian that we made some changes in staffing. We had a long-term custodian that has recently retired. And then we've sort of changed how we're handling our custodians, and we also recently settled the contract. So sort of a combination of several things.
I think it's worth bringing up, the work that this current custodial staff is doing, which is what's the best way to say it, is above and beyond what we have been doing.
Absolutely, well beyond job description.
I mean, we've had a couple of issues at the school that the custodians have actually dealt with. What was the issue with the water?
The refuge, we had, actually the front of the stage was completely improperly built, and we were lucky that we didn't have a collapse, and we were able to have a custodian to go and make sure that everything was more up to code. We've had an issue where we had some work that needed to be done in a boys' room that would have cost thousands of dollars. The custodians were able to use their hands-on knowledge.
You did all the drywall, all the tiles.
Yep. Countless projects that have been done in just a short amount of time that literally go above and beyond what we have listed as their job description. It's just, I said, can we tackle this? And they looked at it and said, yeah, we can give it a shot. And it's been great.
So we had a staffing change. The new hire was brought in at a higher rate than the old person retiring?
No, we just made some changes within the way we're scheduling our staff. So we
added hours?
Yes.
I'm trying to get how we increased 11%.
We were at a 0.9,
Okay.
and so we went to the 1.0 within all of the custodians because we had cut back, I don't remember how many years ago, to a 0.9.
Okay.
So we were able to bring everybody back to the 1.0 and do a better job maintaining our building.
Okay. Thank you.
So a couple of other things that we should touch on. We had spoken last June, I believe, with in the selectmen's meeting, and I think some folks from FinCom were there too, about a special education revolving fund. So we're going to move ahead. I met with the selectmen a few weeks ago. We're going to move ahead with that and at least get that on the books. We would also like to try and fund that. And again, the funding is limited to 2% of our operating budget. So it's not it's great to have it, but it only kind of helps because I think the maximum is 42,000 or something to that effect that we can put in there to have.
That's the top, that's not per year, that's the top amount.
Like total amount.
Yeah.
So
Total accrual, really?
Yeah.
that's like if we could fully fund it, it'd be 42 grand, and then that's all we have, and then if you use it, then you can bring it back up to 42. But 42 is better than nothing because 40,000 means a lot to us in our little town. So we're certainly going to move ahead with that. We will, we'll make a recommendation to have and work with Liz to figure out how best to do this. I think Barbara Gomez has suggested, you approve it, you approve this in like the special, and then you have the ability to perhaps even fund it this year with some money transfer and so on and so forth. So we'll look for your recommendations on that about what makes sense to fund based on monies coming back. But that's certainly something on our agenda that we would like to at least get it moving, because we've been incredibly lucky for the last 4+ years that special ed has been behaving itself. As you know, it can move 150,000 with one student if that student is on a costly side.
Right.
So, that has a huge impact. So, that's one thing. The other we had on our capital plan, we had the phones.
I was gonna ask about, so these are the capital items?
Yeah, and I have
Phones
to
or-
add one. Thank you for sending me that form. I'll add that, but that's gonna
Okay.
go out. So first on capital plan was the phone system. The phone system at this point at the Dennett is past life, as most things are in town when we look to fund them. They had to bring in the last time we had a serious issue, they had to bring in a technician from retirement because no one knows how to use the phones and there's no parts left. So that sounds about right. We would look for a warrant article on that. The cost has actually come down to, I think, 31,000. So they got an updated quote on that.
Yeah, since a little more than 10 million dollars.
And then we're going to add to the capital plan 1 to 2 years out or so, and we're open to input on that. Key fob system for the Dennett. Right now, it's keep regular keys, and given where we do recess and everything, it would be much better to be able to have ready access that you can control. You can shut it off and all of that. And that looks to be an estimate of about 35,000, but that is not something we're doing for this year. We would put it on the capital plan for future consideration.
So telephones this year.
Telephones this year would be the recommendation. And then on the existing capital plan, I've talked a few times about the roof, that is something that's coming up on the horizon. We've actually gone ahead and hired a consultant to tell us what that means, rather than we think 5 years, we think 7 years. Unfortunately, some of the testing that they need to do with the infrared, it has to be above 75 degrees or whatever before they can do that thing. So that's going to be coming, so we'll keep you apprised of that. That won't be next month for that, but it's going to be, we'll keep you apprised.
We had a good week last week.
did have a
Yeah, we did.
We almost got there.
Yeah.
But that's probably the biggest thing that we're concerned about for proper planning, because that's not going to be a small item. And likely we'll be able to go after some funding for that, but we're still going to have our own piece of it. So we'd like to get that. So even if it ends up, if they say 6 more years, I'm going to submit that and say put it on our plan, because
get it on,
I want you guys thinking about it,
Yep.
because it's just such a big item. After the police station, will probably be the next biggest item that we have.
Playground?
Playground is on the radar screen. Our hope, we need to do some work probably this year. Again, the goal would be to use some of those school choice funds to fund a ability to understand, again, consultant planning. So what do we need to do for site work, because there'll be a decent amount of site work to deal with that. What would the actual cost be of a playground? And in an ideal world, although there's a lot of discussions going on right now, is that we would be able to look to go in front of CPA for some funding of that, as well as some self-funding.
What about fundraising? Has it been CASA discussed it at all? Is any, because in a lot of places, Hops Playground, they do a lot of fundraising, local fundraising for things like that. I mean, not that you could probably even cover all of it, but even if that picked up a share of it, with all the costs and all the expenses and small classroom and teachers, it's hard then to say, okay, now $200,000 for a playground, which,
Well, again, the fundraising, if someone wants to step forward to do that, that's great.
they had, so the PTO had CASA.
Not yet. I'm sure they would be willing to. I'm sure that would be something we could talk with them about, adding a contribution as part of an overall plan. The hope would be that between school choice funding, community preservation funding, that we could do this outside of the general budget.
So can I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
School funding, school choice money. that money that comes in goes where?
It's sitting in a revolving account with the town. We have not used it at all yet.
Okay, and are there any requirements to use that money? Can that be used by the school anytime they want?
It can be used
Anything?
by the school without further appropriation, by the school committee.
But the school committee has, since we've agreed to do this, we have wanted to make sure that it didn't wind up in the general budget, that is to be used for the benefit of the students of the school in such a way to deal with things that we need to do for the school that we can try and do without impacting the day-to-day budget.
Right,
or
I
looking
agree
for
with that
additional
completely,
funds.
because
So
once it
we-
gets eaten into the budget and
we
then those
have
kids go
absolutely
away.
prohibited
Exactly.
for it to be used for general stuff. We're really trying to do any of these things in such a way that we keep the budget that we're putting to the town as fiscally responsible as possible while still making sure that we do our job for the students.
We've looked at some case studies of some schools on the North Shore that 1/3 of their students have school choice at this point. And if that money ever went away, the entire budget of that school would fall apart.
Yeah, well, we're big proponents in that with Cisco ourselves, the
Yeah.
finance committee, we took that kind of route. That you gotta be careful of that money, that
Exactly.
it's not always a never-ending source.
And the other thing I'll just mention, just as food for thought out there, is that, we're starting to see some erosion from the charter schools. That, we had asked the superintendent to pull some numbers last year, but what did we pay from the Silver Lake perspective in that space? And there's a lot of, what's the way to put it, Jason, is match funding coming from the state, subsidies from the state for this?
But the subsidies have never been funded at 100% of appropriations, and it's a diminishing figure over time. So I believe last year's number was about $591,000, so it's losing
Yeah.
reimbursement from the state.
Exactly. Yeah, we're losing, the charter school's sending tuition for FY18 for all the towns. For Silver Lake is $726. We're reimbursed $129, so we lose $597. In Plympton, 7 through 12, we have 4 students who are enrolled for FY18 in the charter schools.
And our line is one of the only lines that seems to be horizontal compared to our neighboring town.
Yep.
And I think that's a testament to what we have here with that. And that's my concern about touching too many of the programs and the structure we currently have.
So, these are all things that we're thinking about. The goal here is to try and make sure that we're doing what we need to do, but being very conscientious to the fact that we do not have any resources at the town level. And, over the last few years, we've been lucky to submit very limited increases to the budget. Well,
Okay, and I have just one more question, and I'll be done. The money, the overages that you're looking for in VOTEC and special ed this year, so far earmarked to definitely take care of the generator. Hopefully that money will get treated. Is there anything else that money is looking to?
The difference in the water treatment
water.
system.
The water
or,
treatment.
or at least some portion.
Yep.
And again, we're, what I'd like to do is to be, to work with FinCom on this about, as I know you have some needs I'm sure you need to meet as well, if some of that money's coming back. And willing to work through it.
But I thought you said you've already scheduled the work to be done on water treatment.
Yeah, we'll
We
have
don't
to.
have a
Yeah, we had to. So we've, we'll fund that out of the school choice if we need to. But
How much is in the revolving account currently?
School choice?
School choice.
Just over 85.
85,000.
But that would mean we wouldn't have it available for the playground, so, again,
And things like,
Play with whatever
the
it
generator
was.
actually could have been capital improvement. Going through that.
But they needed to do it right away, and
Yeah.
if I remember, the rental fee was.
1,500 a week.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
when
really
you think
painful.
about generators 58,
Yeah.
we're at 70, so
We could have all
10
gone with
grand of that
Duracells and
was
made a better.
wasted.
Yeah, I know. We thought about it, we tried to get the bunny to come visit, the Energizer bunny, but
Yeah, the generator cost us about 10 grand, and we moved as quickly as we felt we could, and we weren't just gonna wing off on something, but we tried to balance getting enough information and being sensitive to that.
Well, and the added benefit of down the road, being able to actually use the building as a,
Yes, well, and that was a request of the selectmen too.
Right.
So,
That
you know,
makes
we
sense.
were getting something else for the extra money we spent for the bigger generator,
yep, that makes sense.
so.
Anyone else have any questions for Lieutenant folks?
No, I'm good.
You sure?
I am. Thank you. I mean, I am a former school committee member. I know how hard you guys work. I appreciate the fact that you're trying to give the best education you can to our kids and still be fiscally responsible, which the Dennett has done a really good job of over the last few years. I appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you, Lisa.
Absolutely.
And want us to come back in to discuss further, we're happy to do that.
Thank you.
Okay?
We're still trying to figure out where we are, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
as I'm sure you can appreciate.
And I will get that, I'll get that capital
Okay,
thing planned for the key fob
okay,
stuff.
thanks.
Okay? Great.
We'll add it to the
Thank you.
list.
Thank you.
You're not going anywhere? Nice try, though.
Yeah, yeah,
Next round?
this close. You can change
Almost got out.
So it was weird, but yeah, it wasn't that long. I've never been back here.
Seems so all set.
We would anticipate that new generator is gonna be diesel. I don't think the gas or propanes have that kind of capacity.
As far as I know, it was propane powered.
I thought it was.
We were
Wow.
hooking it right into the line.
Yeah,
Because we have natural gas.
right. It's I'm not gonna remember.
When I was looking at, I mean, I have one of the ones on propane at my house, because there's no LNG going down my street. Yeah, I got Fios, but no LNG.
Is-
You're ahead of me.
But, yeah,
Is Maureen coming in, or?
I
I
don't
believe
know.
so, I'll let her know.
I don't think that
Hi.
propane would
I'm
handle
Maureen
something
Springer.
that big.
I'm pretty sure.
Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again.
No, propane and LNG would handle
Your
something
handsome
that-
son the other night.
Catherine.
I have a good few, Jenny, as well.
I saw him
That's
the other
handsome
night.
son.
Yeah.
And the handsome son and Steve. And I
Just the one
went,
over at the church is a diesel.
Hello.
Alrighty.
I know you have a 7 o'clock there. They're going nuts in there too, so.
Arranged that.
We figured it would be a long night tonight.
Yeah, it's very busy out there.
So, moving right along.
So I know you were busy with the Dennett, and you have, I think you all have copies of our, hi Steve, copies of our budget book that Joy put together.
It would be easier for me to read than,
I have one more
I
copy.
know
Oh,
I can't
thank
see
you.
that.
There were 4 copies in here.
Joy, do you want to present where we are?
Sure, if you have questions, anything you'd like us to begin, or?
We're no further along than we were last 10 minutes ago, so you can feel free to,
Go to the next step, right?
So the Silver Lake budget is what we consider to be a level service budget. We have a new accounting system that allows you to look back over 5 years, which we didn't used to be able to do in terms of the percentage change. What we were able to do this year is we had 4 retirements at the middle school. And so we were able to use the retirement positions to make some changes within our staff. We replaced the staff with different positions that were more what was needed within our programs and for our students' benefits. And they're all programs that we have been talking about offering to our students. Book, I think I saw it on Lisa's lap.
Yeah, Lisa's got it.
You know, the budget was built with information about enrollment, where our students are located, the different vocational programs, our charter school enrollment, the private school enrollment, homeschool enrollment. So there's hopefully a whole picture there. It's also inclusive of information from our tech director, also our special ed director, as well as our curriculum coordinators in terms of the different textbooks and line items that we've had. Over the last several years, we've been making a lot of cuts to Silver Lake, you know, to try to meet the requirements and expectations of the towns. So at this point in time, we again were working very hard to be fiscally responsible and to meet the town's expectations, but to make use of the retirements to be able to provide a better education for our students.
So you didn't just replace the 4 people, you hired 4 new people, but for different programs?
Yes, we haven't hired anyone yet. That will be
Yeah,
next year.
that's what you're proposing,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, they've let us know that
Yeah.
they're gonna retire.
You know, there's some programs that we've talked about that we believe will allow more of our students to stay in district and not go out of district. Some of them are involving sort of social emotional supports for our students and providing a bit of a safety net for some of our students. A program we've also talked about for the last 3 to 5 years is an allied health program, a Chapter 74 program that we have very much wanted to bring in. Students who are part of that, we receive additional funds through Chapter 70. We can half fund the position through a Perkins grant, so we put in the cost of half of the position, and then once the program is approved by Chapter 74, the income from the additional students, Chapter 70 funds, would be able to fund the position.
So what makes those 4 positions that you're eliminating, what makes them obsolete? Would you have eliminated them anyway?
I don't know that
I guess what
we-
changes this year?
Well, some of what has happened is 2 of them are remedial reading positions that we had at our middle school, and we've worked really diligently on our elementary level to do better job of remediating and supporting our students on the elementary level, so that by the time they're getting to the middle school, there's not as much of a need for that pull-out program for them. So we're believing that we're going to be able to meet the needs of our students through Title I. And not having to have those 2 professional remedial reading teachers. We have done a much better job working with some assessment programs so that we can really target the interventions the kids need and meet them on the elementary level.
But is it just convenient that these people are retiring, or would you have gone down this road anyway?
We actually, in the past couple of years, have asked for these programs to be put in finance committees from.
I'm not talking about the new program. I'm all in favor of new programs. I'm talking specifically about the programs that are being eliminated. Would they have been eliminated anyway, or is it just convenient that these people are retiring?
I'm not sure I would have laid off a long-term remedial reading teacher, if that's your question. I think
In
that's your
essence,
question.
yes.
No, I would not have done that. You know, this is something that we've been working towards. You know, we have worked really hard on the elementary level to strengthen the remedial reading on the elementary level. We're working with a program called LLI that Jill could probably do a little better job than I could of explaining, but it's basically targeting and meeting the needs of the kids. So we've seen a decrease in the needs at the middle school. So we're at a point now that the good news was the elementary programs are working better. We had 2 teachers retire, great opportunity for us.
Okay.
And we also, one thing that we did with negotiations this past year was we put a retirement incentive in there. So a number of our teachers took advantage of that, where they may have waited a few more years, thought, you know, maybe with a lot of the changes that are going on, this might be my year to do it. So I think that has helped a little bit.
I think so too. It's a very small incentive. It's just a date to let us know by November 1st.
Yeah.
And it was $1,000. So by them making a decision earlier, it allowed us to build it into the budget, which gave us more opportunities to plan. So that was an extremely helpful thing that we negotiated in.
Okay.
The other things within our budget, there really haven't been a huge amount of changes. One of the other situations that we would like to bring in, it's called a BRIGHT program. It's called Bridge for Resilient Youth in Transition. And this is a program that supports students who are going out for social emotional issues. They may be coming in and out of hospitalizations. Anxiety is an issue that is running pretty rampant in school systems at this point in time, especially on the secondary level. This would help to support the students so that when they come in, they have an extra sort of safety net, and they'll be able to go in and out of their classrooms, access the curriculum, and hopefully stay within our school system. We know of quite a few students who have left our district because we have not been able to provide the supports they needed. It also works with students with concussions. Some students have concussions and actually really does not allow them to go into the regular classroom. It is too much pressure, it's too much for them. This is a place where they can go. So that's another position that we're interested in accessing through that, and as I mentioned, the Allied Health Program. So those are the areas that we're really trying to focus on. We're trying to keep our students in district. Again, I know Lisa has it, but you'll notice I think we're up to 58 students right now who are in the charter schools. Off the top of my head, I think that's the number. You know, that is 59. again, that's almost $600,000 that we have lost by those students going to the charter schools. We also have students who are attending the private schools, and we right now have 124 students who are in private schools. All those students, are positions that we are losing our students, and we need to keep our Silver Lake program strong so that students want to stay with us. And that's really something that we have worked very diligently to provide those programs. And, I personally think it's the place to be, but I might be biased.
Additional piece for that BRIGHT program, it's also being utilized by a lot of school districts for medical Lyme's disease cases now too, where kids are manifesting some symptoms beyond the bullseye rash. It's causing some pretty long-term effects on some people, including our students.
And what would the alternative be? Would those students be like a special ed student, or what would happen with them?
Sometimes we have to provide tutoring, which is way more costly.
Oh, sure.
For those students. Sometimes they end up going into other private placements depending on their situation. Again, our goal is to be fiscally responsible within the parameters we can. So we saw this opportunity as a chance to strengthen our programs but remain fiscally responsible.
Joy, Nate, could I just bring up, I had brought this one, this was from January 11th. And I know that you don't have the book in front of you, but Lisa, I think this is in yours. I mean, if you take a look at, the percentage, the fixed costs of our budget, and this was version 1, which we're still working on, fixed costs were 80% of the increases. And, it's pretty shocking when you look at it, all other increases. I want to take a look at this. This is what I'm talking about. Obviously, at the top list is our increases that we have no control over.
So one of the things that we've done is we've gotten some additional information about health and life insurance from Mayflower Municipal, which is a group we belong to. I don't know, is Dennett Mayflower Municipal or?
Plympton is Mayflower, yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean Dennett, I'm sorry, Plympton. Good question.
They don't offer that to us, so.
Sure.
Sure. So we initially built in an increase of 10% because that's what we were told. And over the last several years, that increase, the health insurance is really, we're our own city. Yeah, I'm sure you realize that. But we have to take care of our own, snow plowing, our own health insurance, all those things that you have to take care of as a city, we have to do as well. We originally put in 10% because that's what we were told. We've since gotten information that increase will not be as substantial. So we have reconfigured what the impact of that will be. And so we have some good news. We've also heard from the towns of Halifax and Kingston who have asked us to come up with a list of increased costs, and that will be presented tomorrow evening. We have an extra budget meeting we scheduled, so it's tomorrow night at 5. If anybody would like to come. We're having a party, there's party hats, ice cream.
Steve?
I'm free.
Okay.
I believe I'm free.
I'm in New York, so I can't go.
Well, there's a certain advantage when you no longer work for a living.
Right, there we go. So, we have really worked, the town has asked us to, the school committee asked us to go back and to look at our budget and to.
Okay, I'd like to interrupt here, though. The school committee requested, at the request of a Kingston resident, to go back and look at the budget and see if we thought we could make any cuts. There's no guarantee that any of us agree that there will be any cuts.
Right.
So I don't want to give false hope that we're coming back with a different version that's going to be drastically different than what we're presenting here. And I think that maybe that Joy misspoke when she gave you the impression that way. But I think it's
Well, I think
clear
we
to say
appreciate
this-
the effort regardless.
We're definitely going to do it, and our principals are actually the ones that are going back to look at, rather than us say, listen, we don't want you to have that. It's not up to us to say that. We believe that they and the administration know what's needed for the students in the buildings.
So I assume the professional development, which is a 10% increase, is similar to the explanation for the Dennett. You've got younger professionals now who need to. So that's increase there. What about the next 3 or 4 lines? You've got textbooks, instructional hardware, library services, and audiovisual programs all are at substantially double-digit increases over last year. That seems an aberration.
So one of the things that we have cut over the years is our textbook program, because that was an area that we kept delaying purchasing new textbooks. So we, last year, we finally did half a year of some middle school science books, and we're going to do the other half of the year this year. We also have other areas that need to be updated, and in the book, Lisa has.
I saw it.
Yeah.
Already saw it.
So I
I'm
actually asked our curriculum coordinators to go through and list the years for all of our textbooks to give everyone information on when the textbooks were purchased and what the years of them are. So we are working to try to get a little bit better handle on some of our textbooks. What happens if you're not in education is you think if you have technology, you don't need textbooks anymore. But what happens is that the textbook companies have a pretty good gig. You can't buy just the online version, or you can't buy just the books. They come together. So if you buy the online version, you have to pay the difference in the books. So they realize that they might be put out of business, I think, and we're smart enough to sort of tie them hand in hand. So in order for us to be able to provide the curriculum and supports for our students, but that is where that area comes from. Instructional hardware, there's a 4-piece right where you are, Lisa, it might be just before that, where it goes through some of the information on our technology. And as part of the technology presentation, we have a one-on-one initiative with Chromebooks. And one of the things that looks like that, it's right after the textbook,
Yep.
I think. One of the things that our tech director had suggested is we have our families buy an insurance for the students' Chromebooks. Is that if we were to purchase it from Dell for, I think it was $37,000 off the top of my head.
Chromebooks?
No,
It was
I'm sorry.
Google.
No, the Chromebooks, we have Chromebooks. But if we were to buy an insurance program and have the families reimburse us, it would limit the amount of work in terms of the time that the students have to mail the Chromebooks back if they have issues, et cetera. It would allow us to handle it in-house quicker. That is something that, we talked about, and if you'll notice on the far right, at least in the yellow, it's underlined Chromebooks with 4-year warranties. And that was one of the main parts of the increase. And if anybody wants to chip in, don't let me do other talk.
Well, Steve was also talking about virtualizing the desktops on Chromebooks. Chromebooks are basically just an access point to the internet, but they don't really have capabilities of running robust programs. So virtualizing the desktop will allow the students to run any program that are on the server at the schools from their house on the program.
Personally okay with that.
So that includes any of the AutoCAD programming some of the kids might be using in their CTE programs, as well as in some of their advanced engineering classes as well for the sciences.
Do most of the kids buy the insurance? Most of the families do.
Yes, most do. And those that don't, might be a free and reduced lunch that we help them out.
Come on, Lucy, you know how kids are with things like that.
Oh, we bought
They
it.
leave them in
I don't know how many phones we've replaced already.
Any stories you care to tell?
I think I have.
My sister did.
They didn't have Chromebooks when my kids were there.
No. Chalks and boards, right?
Yes. Oh, when I was in school, one piece of chalk for the year.
Exactly.
Uphill both ways.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to insult you.
In fact, it was. I lived on one hill when the school was on the other one.
Nice.
Any other comments? I don't think we can top that one.
No, that's a hard one to go over.
No?
So what percentage increase are you at right
Looking
now?
about 8%, I think.
It's just
8.1%.
It's 3.9.
Thanks. I think
It's 396.
the total is about
396. 297.
297.
Sorry.
I
had it.
Last page is the same thing.
3.97.
Yeah, 3.97.
But for Plympton, that,
Because our
Your
assessment
assessment.
percent went,
Your
that's right, so
assessment,
for
right.
us, it's 8%. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the number we have to explain.
I know,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And then you have so many factors that influence that.
Right.
Yeah, we went
You
from,
have-
we went from roughly 11 to roughly 12% this year.
You had the big increase this year. It was almost a 1% increase. So-
And then your minimum contribution per the state's calculation also went up, so
Yeah.
Exactly.
that impacts the total
So
assessment.
before our state senator Kennedy ultimately passed, he and I were actually working on some legislation for a revolving account for towns for assessment variances. So it would level out the changes, the fluctuations up and down over time. We'd be able to put some aside when the number went down for the next time it goes back up. So I'm still talking to our state rep about that, but haven't got too much traction on it.
Okay.
Well, we also had an increase of children from the year before. We had an increase of 10 children. Oh, wait a minute, 90, yeah. I'm sorry, we had 196 for fiscal year 2017, and fiscal year 2018 for Plympton we had 210.
$3.97.
Okay, so you having another meeting tomorrow, Steve? Seriously, do you think you'll be able to attend, or?
Yeah, is that in the same place?
Yes,
Oh,
same
that's
place,
fine.
5 o'clock.
It's gonna be at 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Where
I
is
put
it?
the time in, I
Where is
just
it
didn't
being,
get the
we're meeting at the
Yep,
big group
same.
room upstairs
I'll find
at the
it
high
again,
school.
but
Yep.
that's all right.
Yeah, just go in the
Above the
back way.
library.
Can you-
Lake Street,
Maybe.
just above the library.
There's a back door by the
Just go in
library.
the back way.
get in
Back
late,
way.
but-
The Lake Street.
I didn't think that,
Chris, kick
that
you
would be
again?
open.
It
so
is.
it
Yeah,
Some
it's open
shoulder
to the
syndrome.
end. It's open
God,
to the
my
meeting.
neck's been
Yeah,
killing me.
if you
That must
go,
be awful.
Steve, when
It's
you're
really
facing
bad.
Lake Street, you're facing the building, the far
Yep.
left door, and then just go right up the stairs, right when you walk in.
Okay. So we
the
might,
same
we
place
may
we
or
were
may
there
not get
last
a
time, Steve.
revised version?
Yes.
Fair enough.
Maybe not.
It'll probably, it'll have a new date on it.
Whether it goes up
Maybe
or down
we'll
is,
put it- yeah, maybe a different color paper, one's paper.
okay, great.
Something bright, spring's coming.
I guess if we have no more questions,
if I can
we'll let you all go.
Exactly.
Thank you for your time,
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, got to go to Halifax.
Are we still on camera? Well, I'm running for school committee again. My name is Maureen Springer, and I wondered if you guys would sign my nomination papers.
Geez, you're ahead of me, I haven't got mine yet.
So they have their regular school committee meetings?
20 years, Lisa.
Fairfax.
I know, it's awful, isn't it? Look at you, you've been here forever. You just keep switching committees, that's
So
all.
like Ann,
Yeah, I'm done though for a while.
I think they should
Give her my
both.
resume.
so you're fine? That's fine.
Left door.
No,
Just the kids.
Yep, far left. When you're facing the
Girls'
building,
house.
the far
Big.
left.
She doesn't like
I'll
me.
put these in my notes.
Yeah,
I heard that about
Yep,
you. Okay.
far
I
left
have that
door.
reputation, what can I
There'll be a
say?
note on the door
You've
where
heard my
the meeting
reputation,
is.
so there you go.
And then just go right
You and I will
in.
get along fine.
Matt.
Okay, yep, and you'll be there.
I was gonna say Eric
That
didn't
isn't
sign
even
it, he's
the
never
same
old enough to
school,
vote.
Mike.
I'm like,
I know.
when my son signed it, I'm like, what are you
We'll see you
doing?
tomorrow night.
And he goes, don't you need me to sign this?
Nice
And I
to
go,
meet you all.
oh, yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Oh, they grow so fast. 4 grandsons. Yeah.
I
Jack,
see once in a while I'll see pictures
Yeah.
that hit the end, hit
Jackie
Facebook. I'm
and
like,
Jason both each had a little boy.
Thanks, Troy, appreciate it, thank
One
you.
turns
Good luck
3.
at Halifax.
Turns
They're
1.
much meaner than we are.
Good time, guys.
Becky turns 38 Sunday. Can you believe it?
Good night.
Nice seeing you. Oh, no problem. Thank you very much for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Take care.
I'm gonna move before this.
It's me.
Oh, I'm trying to figure out what Access
Yeah,
Mobile
what am I doing
Solutions
now?
is.
I'm running for
Thanks, Steve, he just signs anything, put it in front of him, he'll sign it. I didn't know what, I didn't even read it, I just,
clipped it off the board because I have a lady that needs some grab bars and steel lifts. And I knew if I put it in my pocket, I'd lose it all the way out. Oh, it's tough getting old, I'll tell you. Well, you guys all look wonderful. I know we haven't formally met. Catherine Shepard. Catherine. I've seen a lot of your emails. You handsome, stay out of trouble. Do
my best.
You go move in with that Murray kid. You gotta be careful. Ed's listening, I know. Steve, good to see you.
Take care.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Thanks,
Take care, neighbor.
guys. Thanks for
Bye,
all your
thanks,
hard
guys.
work. Yeah.
Say hi to that handsome husband.
I will. So what do we just have, selectmen?
And then we have fire. Yeah, tonight was the busy night.
Yeah.
That's the night
a lot of
we should
big
have
ones.
missed. Not
Yeah,
last
you took a
time.
long week off. Last week we were in and out of here about 40 minutes. It's awesome. Poor woman showed up for the, what was it, library? We were all done. She comes walking in.
Another sign.
What time's fire?
Fire's at 7:30.
Okay.
So Liz is coming in now.
Sierra.
Hello.
But I actually went and met with the chief today
Oh, good.
about his fire thing. So a lot of it's pretty. I mean, it is what it is. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm swell. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. I know we've met. But I don't know if
Yes.
you've met the rest of my crew here. So
Hi.
I'm
Yes.
Lisa. I'll introduce again. I'm
Yes.
Lisa Hart. I know I introduced myself to you
Yeah,
once
Catherine
already.
Shepherd.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Eric Hart.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Steve Lewis?
Good to see you again.
Yes.
this is
Met some people informally, kind
our
of over the
world
last
famous
few
inaugural
weeks.
town administrator.
Inaugural.
Inaugural.
I don't know about world famous, but
Well, give me time.
so what format as far as going over everything? Do you want to kind of go through and ask questions, or do you want me to give you a little breakdown?
I turn it over to Lisa and she asks all the questions. It's really worked out well for us.
Excellent.
No, we typically we'll put your submission up on the screen for everybody to
Okay.
look at. If anybody has any particular questions, generally speaking, we take a look at how it compares with previous years.
Understood.
And if anything jumps out at us, we'll ask you about it. If you have anything in particular that you think we should know, by way of explanation, like for example, the custodial will be
Okay.
a point of question, I'm sure, just because of the percentage of the
difference.
increase.
Okay.
So if there's anything unusual along the way, feel free to enlighten us.
Okay.
So here we go, and we're sideways, of course.
Stop sitting so close to the screen.
So insurance level.
Yes, and
Zero increase.
I spoke with the
Thank you
town
for breaking it
accountant.
down, though. That was actually kind of helpful.
Yeah, I thought it was good because just the title insurance premiums, I think that people don't always know what it's for.
Yep.
And I did speak
Did I
with
actually
Barbara
change that?
Gomez about this, just to make sure that level funding it was a suitable thing to do. And in light of what we've spent so far and everything, she felt like that was a solid estimate. She didn't see any issues either way.
Very good.
Thank you.
So many years.
$3 for the selectmen. Money well spent.
Wow.
Okay, so this number got changed, right? Because the
Correct, that was in the updated packet that
Yep.
I had sent.
yep, I think I changed it somewhere.
So it's changed to 30,914. And that's
Yep.
in light of the 2.5% COLA and the 2% merit-based step increase.
Yep. Okay.
That's admin salary?
That's for Bridget Martins that works for the Board of Selectmen. She works 28
Administrative
hours
assistant.
per
Oh,
week.
oh, oh,
She's
okay.
the administrative assistant.
I see. I was just wondering what number it was.
We originally had put it in as 2%, and then wage and personnel came back with a 2.5%. So all these numbers had to be increased a little bit. This is level funded again.
Administration, yeah. This is the right.
Okay, never mind. I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
So this was the line that we just transferred money last meeting because we had some startup costs for
Startup costs for some
Supplies for
courses
you,
and memberships that they
Yeah.
wanted me to have, and a few other things like that.
But going forward, we created a new expense line for the town administrator, because obviously she's here to stay.
And is that gonna be line 243 for your purposes?
Yes.
Okay,
It's not
I'll
f-
fill that in on.
Yeah, Barbara has her own numbering system.
I
which
know, I did hers in
unfortunately
little
doesn't.
numbers.
I noticed that. Yeah, it would be great if they coincided, but they don't. They're not even close. So
That's no problem,
That's
though.
just strictly a line number
Everything that
for our purposes.
your committee does, though, seems to be pretty user-friendly. I find it to be anyway, as far as the formatting and everything.
That's good. She's sucking up to us.
Yeah.
She's good. So going forward for next year, we've budgeted $3,600
And is
for.
there a budget sheet, one of the sheets?
Yeah, I think she
I
did
did
give
a
us one, yeah.
separate budget sheet,
We're good there.
yeah, when we get to that.
Salary, there it is there.
So I did break it down just so people would understand what it was for. As per my contract, there were some association memberships that they wanted me to have. They also wanted me to pursue designation as a certified municipal public purchasing official. So I'm taking the first course in the current fiscal year, and then I actually budgeted for next fiscal year, which is in there, to finish off the coursework. And then I'll apply for the designation probably at the start of the following fiscal year, depending on how much money I have left in here.
Okay.
Because it's good for 3 years, so you have a little bit to apply, so I don't want anybody to have like sticker shock or anything like that. So I figured I'd space it out.
Well, we do similar things for Tara and
Yeah,
right, and
right.
everybody else, right? Yeah.
Right, and then some of it, like the MMA meeting, that has a cost associated with it. Also, the Massachusetts Municipal Managers Association, a lot of acronyms, but MMMA. Even though you're a member, it's a little odd, but they still charge you to attend the various meetings, of course. And otherwise, I mean, everything's pretty self-explanatory. I had a lot of my own stuff coming in. So office supplies is fairly minimal. Bridget and I have the same type of printer, so we figured that we could kind of pool our resources as far as ink and everything like that. So I can't imagine that I would really need much in the way of office supplies. And the Adobe subscription, I wanted to upgrade to the version that lets you transition back and forth between Microsoft documents and PDF. So if you need to edit something and whatever, just to kind of align with that.
Are you, because I remember last year when we talked about Bridgette's salary, there was an increase in hours proposed, I think, wasn't there? Assuming that you were going to use her hours,
She's remaining at the 28.
Okay.
So she seems comfortable with that number and
Okay.
everything for right now.
Because she's obviously assisting you as well.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I do a lot of my own sort of stuff like
Sure,
that, but
okay.
but no, she's very helpful and everything.
I think she might have been 24 and we went to 28 last year. Do you remember? I'd have to look it up.
I don't
That
remember.
might make sense. The 28 seems good. She's providing great service. She's always here, and it's also helpful too because with the 28, she's here for more of an extended day than what the regular business hours are. So if somebody can't get here by 2 p.m. and they need to come in for different licenses or anything like that, at least she's available to do that. And it also incorporates her attendance at the weekly selectmen's meetings and everything. So that's been working out really well, and she's incredibly helpful.
That's great. Okay. Computer maintenance?
So currently we utilize LCC, which is Professional IT Service. They're actually based in Swansea, Mass. And they've been helping us. It also includes our data backup. But they're helping us do some different things. Right now we're in the process of converting to a new server. So there'll be a little bit of a change with the email platform and some things of that nature. We do have some upgrades that I think that we're probably going to need to complete over the next little bit. I know that in the current fiscal year's budget, we had funding put aside for some new computers, as well as the IT grant that Tara worked on with John Trainer.
Right.
So the computers are here. Actually, the person from LCC was here installing them today with a new version of Microsoft Office. But to complete some of that, I think that we're gonna need some upgrades. If you're familiar with the assessor's office, you'll see that currently all the equipment that's kind of like a makeshift server and IT station, so everything's just sort of piled on the ground in there. So we are gonna have to make some provisions for that, and also we had kind of a catastrophic failure of the townhouse's Wi-Fi system when we had the water damage and the flood. One of the Wi-Fi networks was completely permanently disabled. I think the water poured directly into the little gizmo. Yes, it went directly into it. That's a technical term, gizmo.
Clearly Eric followed you, so we're all set.
But then even the other one, that one went down too. And it's been problematic because Board of Health, for example, they're right in the middle of the townhouse. So we used to have the two different Wi-Fi setups, east and west. They were right in the middle, so they never had that good of a signal anyway. But most of their stuff they do on iPads. They have a wireless printer. So we've been in kind of a situation. We did get Comcast in here. We do have Comcast for our internet provider. And they did set us up with a new modem. Apparently our modem was grossly outdated, and for no cost they did come and replace that and apologized for that we had it for so long. But we had never had any issues from what I had been told until now.
Did Board of Health also mention to you that?
Say that.
Yeah, they were right. It was Art, right? That was looking for.
Yes.
They're looking for new hardware for them. Did they mention that to you at all?
No, they didn't.
We told them to ask you.
Desktop, just a desktop computer, he says, in really bad shape.
Okay, we have one of the 7 new ones that were delivered. We have one that it was kind of questionable where it needed to go to.
Okay.
I had thought the assessor's office initially, just because now that we have Wendy Jones here and she's doing just a lot of different things with title research and some of the mapping and everything. But if there's a need at Board of Health, we can figure that out.
Yeah.
We're just the messengers. You do whatever you
Okay.
need to do.
And so
Okay.
let me ask, while we're talking about this, let me ask a question. Do you have a schedule of how old everyone's computers are and when they're gonna be? Because that, as far as we know, all that was moved into the selectmen's line item, all the
So-
computers for the townhouse.
Right.
Right. So that's all here. We're trying right now to work with the individual from LCC to get that list put together.
Okay.
He has a draft of a list, but I think it was generated back when, I don't want to say predecessor, but when the town coordinator was here. I think he had sort of started working on it, but it never fully, they never fully got the ball across the finish line.
Yeah.
We also have a laptop that we are no longer using. So
Okay.
if anybody, I
So
mean,
if that
it's a
could
few years
possibly
old,
be-
but it could be repurposed potentially. So
Okay.
if somebody wanted to wipe it clean and reformat it.
Okay, I think that they were also going to work on that too, as far as the town coordinator's old desktop computer. It was having some issues, but they were going to refurbish that and get that into the rotation. So I can get in touch with them at the Board of Health and we can kind of assess the need and figure out
Okay.
what resources need to go where.
Great.
Also along those lines, we don't have an actual network connection in that office. But our IT professional was telling us today that he doesn't think it'd be a lot of work to simply run a cable, maybe along the ceiling and drop a line in.
You mean an Ethernet connection?
Yes. They don't have any mechanism of just connecting, so they're solely reliant on the Wi-Fi, which is spotty at best.
Especially when it rains.
Right. We also had a phone problem last week when it rained, which I think was frustrating for some of the offices, but Verizon's pursuing that for us, so.
Okay.
I've seen a lot in the market about extenders into Wi-Fi. And basically you have one Wi-Fi, and then into outlets, periodically you have signal boosters that will run a whole building.
Right. See, one of the other things that I had asked about too, when the individual from Comcast came, he gave us, he said only use it for emergency purposes, but he gave us the, like a password and everything that you could activate the Wi-Fi through that modem. But he warned us that it's either, I think it's before the firewall or after the firewall, so the firewall wouldn't be effective.
Right.
Okay.
If
Before
we
the firewall,
utilize
yeah.
that, right, so he was concerned about that, so I think our IT person is gonna work on that. We really need, I think though, as far as on the selectmen's end of things, we really need to get a handle on the status of the grant that Tara and John had worked on, kind of where we're at, so that if somebody asks, we're able to say, well, no, these things have been completed. And also, we do need to complete the new computer project, complete with installation, which, like I said, he was here today working on it, and he's coming back tomorrow, so should be pretty well up and running in that regard.
I don't have Wi-Fi by the pool, so.
Looking into your own extenders.
Extenders, yeah.
Memorial Day, we saved $10. Awesome.
I just thought the $10 was odd.
No doubt it was a 2% increase somewhere along the way, and
Right,
it just never
right.
get caught.
I just, type A, it bothered me. I
Yeah,
was like, why
that's-
is there $10?
I appreciate, when I saw that, I appreciated that.
Building repair maintenance.
Yeah, townhouse building.
So we had all the repairs and everything that happened as a result of the water leak. The insurance company was helping us with, but overall, it's sort of self-explanatory. If we had some sort of event take place here and needed to fix something, that's what that's for. But nothing big planned at the moment.
Wasn't there something about the roof? Am I remembering it wrong? Okay, never mind.
There was the problem when they had the water in the selectmen's
Yeah,
office,
but there
so
was
they did
something about,
We do occasionally get water downstairs in the conservation and planning office, and that's been a little bit, there's been a few times now that the custodian has gone down there and has noticed pooling water. It's just the groundwater table is so high, and if we get a lot of rain, it is coming up. So they've had to elevate their computers and some of the stuff. So, there are some things that I think that we might want to look at. Another thing that I was going to speak with Bob Carling about, I've had a few complaints now that people can't see the entrance good at night with the dual entrances, like for the fire station and then here. And there's no real lighting out there. There's no lighting on our sign. And then that little peninsula island piece. And when you come in, it's kind of at a strange angle depending on which direction. And so we just don't want to see, anybody have an accident out there
Sure.
or something, because 58's really busy. So I was going to speak with him about how much he thought it would cost to put some lights in down there. I don't know if maybe we could do solar powered or something like that, but obviously, if not, we will need some sort of a line run out there. So I was gonna look into that and see if it's feasible and what it would entail.
okay. So this is the custodial, and it's a sizable increase, but you've got explanation there. So what's he currently working? How many hours a week?
Currently, he was at a spot where he was not exceeding 16 hours per week. And then the selectmen, with all the stuff that we've had going on between the water damage and everything else, and because there was an incident at the old townhouse, somebody slipped and fell because of a sanding issue after a storm. So they told him to use his discretion. Some weeks we have him work up to 19 hours depending on the weather conditions and things like that. We don't want to trigger benefits, so we have him stay under that. but we have said that, you know, if it's inclement weather or something like that.
Well, that was exactly my question, because you've got him budgeted at 20 hours, which would trigger benefits, so.
Right, so we wanted to raise him to the 20 hours for this coming fiscal year, to make him a regular employee with benefits, eligible for that. And then we did put in, so this would be, it would cover all of the interior and exterior maintenance at the old townhouse. We rewrote the lease agreement with the Plympton Historical Society. They were having a real problem there with nobody able to do trash removal, basic cleaning of the bathroom, and the building gets utilized a lot between yoga, Zumba, people renting it out for different events. And it was really kind of becoming unfair to the volunteers from there who had to consistently be going there on a daily basis and removing trash and everything else. And then it became like, well, where do they dispose of the stuff? Are they bringing it home with them? That kind of thing. And there was also an issue with the toilet at the building and everything. And then also as far as sanding, you know, making sure that the walk and that the stairway and everything is accessible. We also had the custodian install a lock box so that we didn't have to keep sending a volunteer there as far as like with the key and everything. So when they rewrote the agreement with them, the selectmen provided in there that our maintenance individual, the town custodian, that he would maintain the interior and exterior. So his plan right now is to continue doing roughly 16 hours per week, like he's been doing to cover the townhouse, the exterior of the fire station, as well as the library. And then the extra 4 hours are going to be dedicated to the old townhouse building. And then obviously he'll make modifications as necessary. If we're gonna get a big snowstorm or something, he would know that he couldn't go over the 20 hours, that we're not budgeted for that, but that he needs to plan accordingly. And then we did budget an extra week's worth, essentially, an extra 20 hours, just in case there was an emergency. Like say for instance, when we had the pipe burst, he spent a lot of time here, a significant number of hours. He had to meet ServPro here on a daily basis, letting them in and out, managing them while they were here, because you couldn't just leave them unattended in here. Also helping move all the furniture back and forth really. Like Tara's carpet was just replaced. And so he had to come here on the Friday night and move everything in and out and whatever. So we thought that the extra 20 hours would be more for like a real emergency. Just a regular snowstorm or something, we would tell him to plan accordingly. Obviously, if you know at the beginning of the week that we're likely to have a storm coming and that you'll be working extra hours, maybe you need to cut back a little bit at the beginning of the week or the following week, so that it all balances out. So we were gonna manage it like that with him.
So you said the selectmen reworked the leases on the old townhouse. Does that mean that they built in an increase in the fees that they charge to cover the custodian, or no?
They charge next to nothing. So the Plympton
I assumed
Historical
that. That's why I had to ask the question.
No, so Plympton Historical Society, they manage the property. We did draft a user agreement form just so that they have a little something more concrete in place for these people who are utilizing the building. It talks about responsibilities and that kind of thing. That was more for the liability end of it. But no, they only charge, I think, $5 or $10, depending on who's utilizing it. Typically, I believe for the classes like Zumba and everything, I think that it's $10.
But what, are they paying anything to the town? Is not the
Is
people
Plympton
renting it, the
Historical
lease, yeah.
paying anything? I think $1.
It's $1 lease, that kind of lease.
Because they're also
Right.
managing all of the artifacts and everything,
Yeah.
and managing that resource really for the public's benefit. at some point in time, if it gets to be too cumbersome as far as people using the building, you know, too many issues either with safety or slip and falls and things like that, we may have to reconsider, you know, use of a town building for those purposes if it's not.
Do we know how many hours a week that building is used by classes and whatnot?
I can find that out. I know that there's pretty much something almost every day that goes on there, but sometimes it might just be for an hour at a time,
Right.
like a Zumba class, you know, a few days a week and things like that. But they have a fairly full calendar. And that was one of the things that when we came up with the user agreement form for Jessica Kinsman and the PHS folks to give to people using it, it was something that she tried to be mindful of. She didn't want the agreement to be so technical that it really deterred people from using the building, because it is a nice resource to have in town. And when you think about it, if you didn't use the building for those purposes, how often would people even know all the great stuff that's in there and what you have? Like, you want people to be involved with it. And also the Community Preservation Committee, they took that vote just recently. It'll be going to town meeting to use community preservation funds for a restoration of the building. So you want people to be able to enjoy it and everything. And our fear was that if we were too technical or used too much like legalese, or made the fee a lot higher for it and really tried to use it as a, you don't want it to get into a for-profit operation.
I wasn't suggesting that. I was more looking along the lines of, if he's going to be there 4 hours a week,
Right.
but the building's only being used 6 hours a week, that seems
Right.
not really cost effective.
No, it's being used more than that. It's almost
Okay.
it's almost on a daily basis. But I know that the biggest obstacles that they had were keeping the bathroom clean, over the winter, making sure that everything's properly shoveled and sanded. And also the trash. The trash was getting to be, I guess, like, people will go in for the classes and stuff and leave like water bottles and coffee cups and everything. And it was just becoming hard, I think, for those folks to have to keep going there every day, because then they'd get complaints from the next group that used it. They'd say, oh, well, the trash barrel was overflowing and so left this and that. And
Okay.
so that's kind of where we were at with that.
Alrighty,
Town council.
town council.
So that one, to be honest, when I drafted the budget, it was before some of the ongoing things that have kind of crept up over the last few weeks. I think we're going to be grossly over budget for this current fiscal year. We've utilized town council a lot for different big things that have come up, big issues for a small town. We try to curb that as best we can, but it's one of those things. We have a lot of very active boards and commissions that are working on different projects and everything, and then some other ongoing issues that we've had, and I'm not certain sitting here right now that the 50 will cover it for next fiscal year. So I just want to be upfront about that, but I also don't want to say, oh, you know, it needs to increase by so much and then we don't need it. But
So, the way I think pretty much we would think, is that unless you already know that there's definitely, this is going to court and it's gonna cost us $75,000, is that you put it on the lower side with us knowing that this is a line item that hits the reserve fund if it needs to,
okay.
which has money in it.
Then I
Which
feel
it did
good.
last year and
Right.
probably the year before.
Right, rather
Okay.
than have this line high where it can't be used for other things. If
Okay.
for some reason we don't
Then I
need it
feel,
illegal.
if that's the case, because I wasn't sure how you would feel about that. If
Right.
that's the
I
case,
mean, I
then
think
I'm
that's-
comfortable with that number. There's a few things that we have pending right now.
Well, and didn't we tweaked the way we get billed by council this year? isn't it a different type of contract? I mean, I know the number was roughly the same,
They
but
give us a discounted rate. Something that we may want to explore with them in the future is if it would be more cost effective to simply have them on a retainer. And just, we know what we're gonna pay them every year and have that be that. Like, just for perspective, I came from the town of Walpole, prior to coming here, and we had KP Law as our main legal counsel there. That's a town with a population of roughly 25,000, so a lot larger scale, a lot more development projects, and just room for needing legal services. And we had them on retainer for approximately 150,000 per year. Now, obviously, a town this size wouldn't warrant that dollar amount, but you also wouldn't be utilizing them for as much time. So I think that might be something worth exploring with them and negotiating. If it would be more cost effective, maybe we could do an analysis. I could do it relatively quickly, even look back on the last few years and figure out how much we went over by and what we're actually spending, and then maybe negotiate a flat fee with them. Because even the current system now, it's a bit cumbersome, depending on who it is that needs to talk to council. They're going to the Board of Selectmen and requesting, basically getting a permission slip signed that says that they, you can talk to them for 30 minutes.
Right.
So I'm wondering if that might be a more cost-effective means of moving forward. But if what you outlined is true as far as how this committee would feel, then I'm comfortable leaving it at the 50,000, and we go from there. I just wanted to put it out there that
No,
they are
and we
currently
certainly
working
appreciate that, but I think Lisa
things.
summed it up pretty well. We would much rather do it that way than tie up a bunch of money in this line
Understood.
and not need it.
Understood.
So that is why we have the reserve fund, so.
Okay.
Alrighty, town reports. That doesn't change.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, thank you for itemizing this. This was helpful.
Oh, no problem. Hopefully we can save on some of these going forward. We were able to get our green community status active again. And so we are eligible to apply for some grant funding. And it's pretty sizable awards that they give, and it's all for energy efficiency. So maybe at some point, if we can implement some of those measures, we can realize some actual savings there.
Would that be like upgrading the street lighting, you mean, to LEDs and that sort of thing, or?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the programs that they have available, and I'm actually waiting to hear back from somebody from Eversource who works hand in hand with the Department of Energy Resources. He's their main contact person with them, and he was going to take a look at what we have currently for street lighting, and if there's any means of making that changeover. I think it's a little more complicated because currently I believe Eversource owns the street lights, but we just simply pay the bill when it comes in, but they were going to see about possibly transferring ownership to us, but as part of that, they could assist us with upgrading to more energy efficient lighting. But then, of course, you wonder what's the trade-off and all that. So we haven't.
Well, then we have to maintain it, right?
That.
That's probably the trade-off.
Right, and
Yes,
so
you'd have to have
We assume
somebody
maintenance.
with they
Bucket.
go up there,
Right.
well, LEDs, change that off, but still,
Well-
you have to have that capability.
Till somebody
Right.
has a couple and goes out there with their shotgun and goes for target practice.
Either that or the proverbial car down the street that takes the pole out.
Right, that's true too. But no, we're working on a few different things, and maybe we could realize some savings even on, heat, or just general electric costs
I
for
still
some
have
of the
my pole
buildings.
gas, but I don't think I really want to try that again.
Okay, so basically, other than custodian, everything's pretty much level funded.
They put a lockbox on and not a Knox box?
It's a lockbox,
It's negotiated
so that you
town
can get in and get
administrators.
the,
Salaries.
and get the
it goes with
code,
the
Contract.
and then go inside and get the key to unlock.
That fire department puts Knox boxes on.
Yeah, for example,
Oh,
I don't,
okay,
I
yeah,
don't
you're
think she
right,
came in
like at the entrances to
97.5
different
and then she
developments
came
and
in at a
everything.
higher rate.
Right.
We took a stab in the dark.
Because it wasn't a full year.
Right,
and-
exactly.
Right.
That's what 30 years over there will do.
Anyone have any other questions for Liz? Is it Liz? I'm sorry, I don't.
Liz is fine.
Well, I know you signed stuff, Liz, so I figure it's okay. That's.
Yes, it's okay.
Don't get mad if I call you that.
No, that's fine. I hope to be more involved with you guys too, as far as budgeting and everything. Kind of got thrown into everything this year and whatever, but, you know, as far as next year, we can talk and figure out what this group wants, if you want it to remain the same, if you want more of my involvement, you know, whatever you want, that's what I'm here for. And I like all this stuff, so,
Excellent.
so that's fine.
In that case, anything you want to do is fine by us.
I was planning to come on March 7th and just kind of listen in to those, because that won't conflict with the selectmen's
Okay.
meeting.
That's our first Wednesday meeting, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so I thought I'd do that.
Yeah,
and,
excellent. You can see us in action. It's thrilling.
So there was that, and I'm trying to think, as far as sending the warrant out for print, so I just was with the selectmen, and I had them vote to have a tentative close date for the warrant of March 29th.
Okay.
And I went with that date because I looked back at historically what's been done.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like the selectmen were waiting until roughly the last week in April to finalize the warrant. And from what I was told from other people who kind of in the know here, that was stressful for FinCom as far as getting it off to the printer and having the information that you might want to be distributed to people in a timely manner.
Look at me.
And that was just, and I thought that it sounded like it was cutting it kind of close as
Close,
well.
right.
So my thought process behind that was that if it closed at the end of March, then the selectmen could finalize it like either the first or second meeting in April. And that would just give you folks more time as far as getting it out to print.
That sounds great.
Does that sound
Honestly,
okay?
I have no idea because I've never done it before. So
Okay.
so if you give
All
me
right,
a
you
couple
and me both.
if you give me a couple extra weeks, that sounds perfect. So
Okay,
we'll have
no,
to, I'm gonna
and, you know, I
have
talked.
Susan on speed dial to.
Okay, I see. I talked with Tara a little bit today,
Yeah.
and she had said, you know, it's always been
It-
cut incredibly close. And
I know Susan did a lot of work outside of, these four walls to put it together, and I know it was pretty
Right.
stressful. So
that's what
So
was
I'm-
mentioned
yeah,
as well. Was
I'm sure-
all of
I'm sure it
her
was.
efforts and kind
exactly,
of. I don't want anyone from this group to have to run around at the last minute.
and where it's our first time putting it together, I'm sure we'll need some extra time anyway. So
Well, and I also thought it was good too if we want town council to review the final version of it so that we
Mm-hmm.
don't get on the floor of town meeting and find out that something's either not worded properly or.
she always does that anyway. She has in the past. She
Right.
she goes through and makes sure that everything's worded properly and
Right,
gives
so
out
that
her
should be,
recommendations.
that should be good.
Good.
As far as that goes.
Okay,
Okay.
I guess we're
Thank
good
you.
then.
Anything else?
I think that's good right now.
See you on the 7th.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
On an Ethernet on a twisted pair.
Okay, good night, everyone, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
meeting you.
Thanks for coming in. Hi, Chief.
How are you?
Hey guys. How's everybody?
Good.
Good. Long day?
Yeah.
Chief, do you know everyone?
I think I'm
Do you
sorry.
know Catherine?
Hi,
Catherine
Catherine.
Shepherd.
Sorry, very nice to meet you.
You too.
I think we met last year.
Eric.
Eric, yeah, of course, Lieutenant. Nice to see you.
I don't know this guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, where are we? Chief is down with 500s. So, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you all heard me, the chief and I did meet this afternoon briefly to go over his some of his numbers, and he gave me some explanation for it, and I'm sure he'll be glad to share that again with the full committee. So, but you can see overall the numbers we're at a 4% increase, which all things considered I think is pretty darn good. When you look at some of the increases we've had the past few years, you know, we've done a lot of work to try and build up the staffing levels and things, and the chief will speak to that. But so we're looking at about a 4% increase this year. So I do have your paperwork up here, Chief. We can
yeah,
just
okay, great.
speak to it as we go through it.
Okay, yeah. All right, so if you'd like, I could start. Of course, the fire chief's salary, as I am negotiating this year, it's yet to be determined, but I didn't get an increase at all last year because we had stopped the overtime portion of my pay and put it onto just the salary. So there was no increase last year, so I've asked for 2% last year and then 2% this year. And you can see the result of that. Any questions?
I was FinCom, I thought that it was a 2.5
What percent?
by
Wage and personnel recommend 2.5% this year.
Okay.
So, you know,
Okay.
feel free to use that in your negotiations.
I see that, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether they were gonna come down on that.
So,
That's
yeah.
what they did.
So last year was 2%, this year was 2.5%. So,
Oh, okay.
so you can
Make a note of that.
just let us know how you make out with that, and we'll
Okay,
we'll adjust the number.
I appreciate that, thank you. Okay, so this is our fire and mass services line, our expense line. This line right now, and I can tell you where we're at right now, we're down to $9,000 in the line. It's gonna be running tight, but we might just make it. I've asked for a slight increase in that, and I think I've got it covered for the year. We've had some increases in cost of certain utilities. We should see a reduction in the gas this year because we have the new furnace and water heater for the office area, so we might see an decrease in that. Where we've seen some increases are in the medical supplies and things like that. The companies are now putting expiration dates on things like non-rebreathers and even some bandages, so we have to shop around to try to chase the companies that don't always have those expiration dates and buy accordingly to help to control that. So we've been working on that. It's a constant challenge.
So I just noticed that. So I didn't pick up on this before, and I apologize. The medical supplies is listed here, but then we've also got it in the next somewhere else in here. Well, your new page had it there,
Right,
so
and
we're going to
this
want
is-
to combine that, I think, somewhere.
Right, and that's the old, I submitted.
Right, I've got the new one up here as well.
Okay.
Yeah, when we get to that page, I'll bring up the new one. But
Okay.
but my point is, I guess medical supplies are listed twice, and we'll need to kind of
Right.
consolidate that somehow.
Okay, exactly. I see that, yeah, I don't know why they have that way. And I know you had said Barbara was hoping that we could, or we would hope, you guys would hope we could break that out.
We had talked last
I
year
remember, yeah.
about breaking out medical supplies, because that seems to be a real volatile line due to the number of calls, and it seems to be a line that's increasing quite a bit. So I know I brought it up a couple of times last year. It just
I just think it would be better not with utilities and medical supplies, you know what I mean? They're
Right.
two different type of categories.
well, and as I talked to the chief this afternoon, for me, you know, this is just the way I think. I would rather have it so that we could look at it over a period of time and say, okay, in fiscal 18 we spent $22,000, in 19 we needed 25,000, and then we needed 38,000. You know, whatever. I think it would give us better data.
To understand the trends.
So I was suggesting that maybe we want to break that out as a separate line on the budget, only because it seems to be the trend. Most of your calls are EMS calls. That's going to
correct.
be a line that's only going to go up.
Right, and more calls are becoming advanced life support calls.
Right. So we may
Yeah.
want to look at that. I'm just throwing that out for the group to
Yeah,
consider.
that makes good sense, yeah, okay.
So I guess that's everything on that page.
Where they focus senior citizens for
Oh, this is your, all right, let me bring up the new submission
Okay,
here.
all right, so I can.
There we go. There's the
Right,
new
that's-
updated numbers with my chicken scratch.
Okay, so, first of all, let me start by saying that the current system is working relatively well with all per diem players. And which we had the 2 full-timers, we now are down to 1, but we're about to appoint a new one. And it's covered fairly well. Some of the challenges we've had in the past, as you all know that have been on long enough, understand that it's difficult to get people to come to work for Plympton for various reasons. It's hard for full-time firefighters from other towns to come because there's issues with union issues, there's issues with the cancer presumption law and the heart-lung bill, that there's which liability, where does it lie on what town? And so I'm trying to make it so we can have more solid employees and better coverage in the day, which is our busiest time. So the original one showed a lieutenant firefighter paramedic. He's gone now, so I've made it to 4 full-time firefighter paramedics, certified paramedics. And that's at 40 hours a week. And I have the breakdown.
I've got it up here. Yeah.
We have that too. We can actually show the breakdown.
It's upside down, but.
Okay.
To turn the whole thing.
Yeah, that's good. Can you?
Make it a little clearer, but.
So, the thought process behind this was, I knew, because we've come together and we've moved away from the stipends.
Can you see it?
No, but that's okay. I can't see well anyway.
We've moved away from the stipends we used to have. We've gotten over the minimum wage problem we've had, and we've got it to a more competitive rate. On the standby rate, I am asking for a small increase, which is figured into these requested numbers, of raising the standby rate for the medic firefighters to 20 an hour from 19, and the EMTB firefighters from 16.50 to 18. And that is in response to the private sector paying their people a lot more money. They understand too that paramedics are at a premium, and they're now paying people with 10 years experience, paramedics, at $31 an hour, at Brewster even. So they're recognizing the change, and it's a result of a couple of outside factors affecting the town. And one is that paramedics are at a premium, and the state tells me that the numbers are up. They still have good numbers in the rosters, but when times are good and the economy's good, they park their ticket and they go work privates. So the numbers are there, but we're not seeing it out in the real world. And the other factor is that other municipalities are hiring fire departments at a rate I haven't seen in a number of years, and it's going to continue. And
due to boomers going away?
Exactly, right. And a lot of the boomers, and also a lot of the Gulf War guys that came in, ton of those that are now retiring out. So they're hiring left and right. Not just the smaller communities like Halifax and Plympton are experiencing it. Bridgewater, a lot of them are. And there's various reasons. What we're seeing is, and I will say this on camera, is that these guys, they're shopping fire departments. They're for better benefits and things like that, and they're successful. So for a community like Plympton or Halifax, which can only cover 50% of the health insurance, for a guy with a family plan to go to a town maybe like Hingham or some of the better towns where it's a higher rate, that's big money for just a better health insurance plan. So we're seeing a lot of that back and forth flow of people working for multiple departments in short periods of time. So this helps to kind of solidify that, give some incentives, give some benefits, and have some better retention. And when you look at the numbers, it's less than I thought it was going to be. It actually, I knew we were close, but on the budget request, it was $463,000 appropriated last year. With the increase, it brings it to $471,000, which isn't too far off. Now, this call firefighter part-time piece, if we can do this, and it is figured in the final number, what the state is telling us, OEMS is saying, we want the town of Plympton to move to a double paramedic service eventually. When we started out 5 years ago, we came in at a PB, which is a paramedic and a basic. And they said, Chief, how would you like to do it? Would you like to do it, if you want to do it just in the day, you can, because that's our busiest time. And that's how other towns have started. I said, well, I think we could probably do it around the clock. So we started out at PB around the clock. Well, at various times, people have come and gone. It's been a little dicey, but we've pulled it off. Sometimes it would have to be an officer at home that would answer the call if it came in to get that medic. But by and large, for most of the time, we've been able to do it. Well, the state is now saying to me, the chief, we want to keep you moving, keep you moving towards double medic. This showing here, this direction here, will allow us to be at the double medic level during the day, and then we'll run it at the standby PB level at night. So it'll kill a bunch of birds with one stone. It'll give us some retention, and we'll get us cross-trained people in the station all the time, at least during the day, actually both times, and then get us double medic and get the state understanding we're moving to that. And the PB is a successful thing, but when you have like an unresponsive patient, a cardiac arrest patient, a multi-system trauma patient, I have to bring an additional medic in anyway, and that's an all-call that I put out. So there are additional costs there. And it may be from another town, but quite often I can pull it off, but there are additional costs. So this will help to keep the on-staff, the people in-house, able to answer any call at the paramedic level.
Can I
That's-
ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Just because I'm ignorant about it.
That's okay.
Medic and paramedic, are they the same thing?
They're the same, right?
Okay.
And I didn't change, I made a corrections up top and I didn't.
So
I'm
they're
sorry.
all medics or
Right.
paramedics except for the EMT
Exactly.
level?
Right, I'm sorry, I'll have to.
No, that's
change
okay.
that.
No, that's just
Good
me. I
point.
just didn't know if they were two different
Is there still
levels.
High level?
There is, it's no longer an eye level, it's called advanced level. And they changed the scope of practice. We're hearing it's probably gonna go away. What they're gonna do is they're gonna increase the basic skills to maybe include IV therapy, and I don't know about airway yet. There's a lot of discussion about that. In some, like on the Vineyard, they're doing some of that stuff, in some other places. But it's moving away. And they've even, it's less skills than the intermediates by the looks of what they're able to do, so.
So, Chief, you had mentioned earlier about per diems. So, what do we have currently as far as full-time folks? Do we have?
Right now, we have one.
Okay.
I'm appointing another one. She was chosen today, firefighter, certified paramedic firefighter.
Okay.
She will be appointed within 2 weeks. So we will have 2 full-timers.
Okay. And then the rest of it is people
All
picking up an extra
standby
shift
per
here
diem.
and there.
Correct,
Okay.
right. I knew we were close when I started looking at this, and I know we're doing a study, and I know some of the things the study is going to reveal about retention and issues like that. So I talked to Barbara about it, and I thought about it, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna give these folks a look at this and put a request in. It is not saying that our current system's not working, because it is, but this will take care of a lot of small problems that we have by going with this model here.
So if we have 2 full-timers, then the rest of the folks are paid the standby rate?
That's correct.
But obviously during the day, they frequently go out on call, so at that point they get their regular rate.
They would get their regular rate,
Yeah.
right? Which is actually, for the paramedics, is actually lower.
And how long have we been in this current staffing situation? Has it been like all year, or has it been?
Yes, it has been. We only just recently lost the second full-time.
Okay, so that amount of money that we budgeted last year, theoretically, there's some left over in the salary line
It
because
looks
we weren't spending a full-time, we were
That's-
spending
It just ended.
standby?
This week, it just ended, the money. But we have a, what's our balance on that? Do I have that? I think there's like 180,000, or is it? Our payroll is, the question you're asking is, how's our payroll looking?
Yeah.
Finished for the end, it's looking good. Where is my?
I guess I'm just asking, is there money coming back to the town this year on the salary line, or no?
Well, I would say this, it looks like there may be, but it all depends on the types of calls we may get in the spring if we had a heavy brush fire
Understood,
season,
yeah,
or
understood, sure.
something came in, but it's looking strong.
But if we budgeted you for 3 or 4 full-timers and we didn't have 3 or 4 full-timers, then theoretically we were saving money somewhere along the way.
That's correct, yeah, that is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
And so, sorry, but just, train of thought here. By the same token, if we support this and the town supports it and votes it in, there's no guarantee that it would necessarily go into play for all those factors you've mentioned, as far as retention goes and attracting talent and all
Right,
of
but
that.
I would want to move to this.
I understand that.
Yes, right.
This is your proposal. I get
Yeah.
that, and I support it. I'm just saying, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Okay.
And some of the things we talked about is if they have to take some time off, how do we cover that? If they, say, had a doctor's appointment, how do we cover their time? Well, we have to, or go to a class, we have to bring in a per diem standby person, so there are costs associated with that too. So we're hoping that this, with the extra part-time, will help to give a little room, leeway there, room for people if they have to take some classes and still cover it.
Okay.
And still have the coverage we need. expect to give our residents. What we do is we answer the call that comes in. If it's a motor vehicle accident, we go one-on-one, the engine and the ambulance. If a transport decision's made, I'll get the engine back somehow. If it's a fire situation, both will run on the fire truck. We answer the calls as they come in, as you know, Lieutenant, we have
Yeah.
to. So the hope is that we have people cross-trained on every shift to handle whatever may come in. And under the current system, it's not always possible to have that done. So we're hoping to sew that up and tighten that up.
Okay.
Okay?
So this is I don't know if it's the next line that we were ready to talk about, but this is the next page that I had on your supplemental.
Yeah, the medical equipment.
So this is where you had medical supplies listed here for 15,000, and we also had it listed on that other line for 18,000. So, and again, we're talking about maybe
Yeah.
breaking it out as a separate line.
Right.
So I don't know if there's any comment that needs to be made. It's just kind of pointing it out. That's
Right.
Is it just a duplication? Does it need the total amount, what you need for medical
all.
equipment?
Yeah, I think we need to probably do some more research on it and
Okay.
find out from Barbara what actually has been spent, maybe,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely can do that. Actually,
We change out straps on the backboard after every patient?
not always. It's the problem with that is the prices and all the things that are changing. Sometimes it works out okay, but a lot of times we'll clean.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to
Okay,
think if
so-
those two might be
sorry,
related.
Chief, I got off track there,
That's
but
okay.
the next line, I guess, is clerical help.
Yep, okay. Currently, we're at 15 hours a week for our clerical position. It's a business office. We're now doing permitting for burning, requests from attorneys for public information, and other public information requests are continuing to grow. I'm asking to increase that to 20 hours, and that's the figure that you see, but maybe, like Nate and I talked today, maybe it should be 19 hours to keep it at a less, no benefits position. And that would be fine, and I could just reformulate that. The guy's doing a great job for us, and.
What about the rate? Do you know how much, what it is per hour?
Yeah, do you have the wage and personnel guideline? We went off the entry level.
I don't
position.
have it in, I don't have it with
One page
me.
with the fire department's page.
So I assume you probably budgeted a 2% increase over what he's currently
That's
making?
correct.
Okay, so it would be slightly more, because it would be 2.5%.
But slightly less because one less hour.
Right.
Well, yeah, right, yes,
And
but we could do that.
I'll adjust that and resubmit that.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, yep.
Thank you.
18 and a half.
He's definitely upped your PR on.
My goodness, yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I never realized the power of that. He came with that. He's the full-time dispatcher for Kingston Police and Fire, and he's also a big photo bug, and boy, I'll tell you. Well, it's important, that's how the information needs to get out to the
Sure.
folks, and my goodness, I never
I
realized.
noticed it on Facebook.
Exactly, I was like, wow, who is this guy?
Yeah, and I think that's important for our residents to understand what we can offer.
Absolutely.
And that, please come and understand how, because we've all learned that people don't understand how the fire department works, and this has been a great way to help the residents and taxpayers understand that and see what they're getting.
That was the initial submission.
Oh, that was, okay.
So that's why I'm blowing by. No, that was.
Right, that was.
The one with the 15,000, and then
Okay.
this is just the
civil.
stipend for the
Yeah.
civil defense.
Yeah, okay.
So I think
Someday, I'd like to get some money set aside. We've talked about various ways to do it. The selectmen have told me that if we got into a jam, Chief, and I know you guys have too, that we'd assist you. I did get that Red Cross trailer over there. They're getting resupplied by FEMA, so that we gave them a $500 donation to the firefighters that got wiped out in Houston. Our association gave it to them. And I've been working with them on doing shelter assessments, more of them, and updating them in town, which including the Congregational Church, which I'm doing tomorrow. But they dropped that trailer off. It's filled with cots and blankets, and I mean filled. There's like 110 cots. They said once FEMA reimburses them, they will come up, we will unload everything into our trailer or our location where we want to store it, and they'll take the trailer empty. So we'll have a really good stock of supplies, which we've never had.
And with the Dennett possibly becoming a shelter
That's
site
correct,
now,
right.
that would be-
It
Right.
has been assessed by I have the Red Cross do them because, first of all, it gives us an idea of what we need to do and how we need to do a shelter, and they give a booklet on how to open a shelter. Actually, it's done by MEMA now. And also, if they were to come, it brings with it, hundreds of thousands of dollars in liability insurance policies with it when they actually set up. But what the Red Cross has told me, And I told them, I said, you guys aren't coming, are you? Well, we're probably not. It's gonna be regional shelters, which it's primarily working on. If Plympton had, per se, like a microburst or something in our town, yeah, they'll come. And then we have the facilities that they understand and have established with us and have agreements with us. And those are all being updated again now, and so we will have the school, this building, the Congregational Church. We're continuing to work on that too, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief while he's here, or?
Yeah.
And he had also given some capital expenses. We're not talking those tonight, but we'll go over those at some point. He and I discussed those, and we reviewed them a couple weeks ago when he first submitted them. So we'll talk about those a little bit as we get into the capital planning part of the fund.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah,
Appreciate
very
the
good.
time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All your efforts too. How's everything, Steve?
Good. I
Good.
got my scan, I'm keeping my nose on you.
Stop by. Stop by, have some coffee.
You guys got coffee?
We do.
My
The
goodness.
association.
It's the same pot you made when you were there.
It is. And I need a few guest speakers now and then to smarten some of these kids up and teach them about how it's done. Happy to have you anytime. Just stay out of trouble, will you?
I caught the flu.
I heard that. I wasn't
I caught
there.
the flu.
I almost jumped through my phone when I heard it. Make sure he's okay over there. Yeah, I understand. There's a lot of that going on. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, have a good evening. Thanks.
With sepsis.
So you weren't here at the start of the meeting, so remember last time you were here, you asked Barbara for the number, what it would be if we were to get a 2.5%
Yes.
increase. So we have that number. She gave us an estimate. So it's this number here, 11.8. So that's kind of what our target is. That would be a approximately 2.5% increase over current assessments.
Excellent.
So there's about $450,000 difference between the max levy and what we actually would hope to be at. So, any questions or comments about anything we heard tonight, or discussion, or?
I should probably officially let the board know that I have,
We took a vote.
resignation
No, we took a
papers.
vote. Sorry, denied.
I'll be here through the end of town meeting.
You're putting your seat up for bids?
I am.
You can't have it. You already got one.
That keep me here an extra year. I know I got one.
So, well, thank you for your many years of
Sorry.
service. In all seriousness.
Take 10, expect 5 and get 2.
I mean, we got great people on this committee now. We'll get another great person, and Elizabeth's gonna be helping out, and
Yep.
it's good things happening.
Yep. It should be.
Who we got next?
That's it for tonight. 4 in one night was enough, I think.
So we've got
Works for
next
me.
week.
Next week we go to Wednesday, I think. So we're Wednesday the 7th, whatever day that is. Wednesday the 7th. And don't ask me who's coming.
Okay.
I can't remember. But I could probably look it up if you give me a few minutes to figure out where I am here.
Written down somewhere, so you'll send us budgets.
The 7th. Is that it? At 7 at night? No, 17:45 is 6. Yeah, 4:46.
I didn't send it at 17:40.
I automatically.
I know you do. My wife does it too. It's because the hospital operates on 24-hour time. All right. Well, if there's no more discussion, questions, or other stuff, I'll entertain a motion
Move to
to
adjourn.
get out of here. Thank you. In favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:08.